Hi, my dear Astro family. Today we are going to be talking about the upcoming lunar eclipse. I believe everyone is curious how this lunar eclipse might be playing out, and there is loads to unfold here. So I recommend staying till the very end because basically we have got a Venus conjunction to Saturn, Moon is going to be on Shiva. This lunation is being squared by Astraea, while Mercury conjuncts Eris, the asteroid Mars is on Fomalhaut, and Sun is quite close to Hera and Salacia as well. So I want to be able to break that down all for you. Now, if you are curious about how this might be playing out in your natal chart, according to your rising sign, then I recommend checking out my membership zone on my website, or even you can just join on YouTube and then you will receive additional 10 videos a month. Also, I've got a super exciting webinar coming up, and it's going to be about your 12th house. So we're going to be looking at the meaning of the 12th house, all the possible signs on the 12th house, the ruling planet of your 12th house, as well as planets in the 12th house. So you will get a full picture of your 12th house. Therefore, you don't need to be afraid of it anymore. And you're going to get some positives as well as negatives and how to fix your 12th house. This is the most misunderstood house. So it's time to put it in bed. But let's get going with this upcoming lunation. So we have got a lunar eclipse, and this is a full moon lunar eclipse. And whenever you've got a full moon, there is always going to talk to you about a culmination point of something that you planted maybe 6 months before or just 2 weeks before. This is going to be taking place on the 25th of March on 5 degree of Libra. So let's just get the technicalities out. Do you have any planet between about 2 to 8 degree of the cardinal signs? And that would be Libra, Aries, Cancer, or Capricorn. If you do so, then this lunar eclipse is going to be affecting your life very significantly. First of all, what is a lunar eclipse? A lunar eclipse is an astronomical event that occurs when the moon moves into the Earth's shadows, causing the moon to be darkened. But this is not a major lunar eclipse, not like the solar eclipse that is coming up in April, because here what happens is it's a prenumbral lunar eclipse, which means that the moon is not fully covered out. Ancient times, people were really afraid of the lunar eclipses as well as the solar eclipses because the moon was eaten away. It kind of caused the darkness. So they were thinking, what is going on? And then they really stayed low. Now, of course, we know that this is an astronomical event now, and we don't need to be necessarily so scared of it. But what we noticed is that usually the body gets a little bit weakened and the emotions of people a lot more heightened. They believe that the lunar eclipse affects the common people actually more, and the solar eclipses would affect celebrities or politicians or kings and queens more. Whether there is truth to it or not in everyday life, but I can imagine maybe that the solar eclipse is going to be affecting the bosses more, or the head of a company, or doctors, someone who has got some reputation, and that would make sense. Now, of course, this is a lunar eclipse, and the moon is connected to the physical body, but as well as your feelings, your internal world, and that gets triggered for you here. And the sun is external influences, so typically we see something happening in the world, while with the lunar eclipse it is happening within us. So there is something we're going to have to revisit here about your own internal foundation. So as I said, this is a full moon eclipse. And it's an eclipse, by the way, happens when the sun or the moon are within about 18 degrees from the north node or the south node. So this time around, the moon is actually about 15 degrees away from the south node. So it's quite far away, but basically the closer it is, the more important the eclipse becomes. But do not think for a second that it would not be affecting your life if you have got any planets between 2 to 8 degree of the cardinal signs. So this is a full moon one, so that's about culmination, but also about ending. Something needs to finish, something needs to be eliminated. So maybe you want to start eliminating some of the toxicity in your life. Remember that the eclipse weakens the body. So the recommendation is not to make any major decisions, at least plus minus 3 days, if possible, because the South Node is about emptying things out, a little bit of a decluttering, something that you are meant to be leaving behind. So you can do a little bit of a body toxification, not toxification, detoxification, or you can just clear out your garage, for example. Anything to do with decluttering. Do the cleaning according to your house position. So for example, this is going to be taking place in my 8th house. So 8th house is about money, but also psychological issues and fears. So maybe I need to be doing a bit of an emptying out there. But I will break this down for you on my YouTube private channel. So if you want, if you are curious, I recommend joining, and then you will receive loads of benefits, of course. Now, because Libra is all about relationships and connections. So maybe we're going to have to examine how we interact with others. And maybe you have to empty out some of these kind of like detrimental influences or relationships in your life. Do they serve you? Do they not serve you anymore? Do you want them? It is about having to kind of bow down in front of someone. It is about, I don't want to be a people pleaser anymore. I want to be unapologetically me. Now, remember that Libra is a cardinal sign. So the keywords there are partnership, union, balance. We are meant to be creating a balance between how to express the true authenticity of myself and how much I listen to others. We are meant to be creating harmony in our relationships. I'm listening to you, and you are meant to be listening to me as well. It's about working together with people, sharing opinions, and it's not just about saying out loud all the time what you think, but actually you listen to me as well. It's about fairness, justice. But sometimes Libra comes with a bit of vanity as well. And there could be, Libra is classified as one of the 4 most violent signs. Now, I would not necessarily run into that. Why? But remember, one of the reasons, let me explain actually, because you might be curious. But one of the reasons is because one part of Libra is really Saturnian, and the second part of Libra is really Marsian. So especially after 15 degree of Libra, it tends to be a little bit more on the violent side, where in the first part of the Libra sign, it's going to be connected more to do with fears or holding back on that anger. So very interesting. Libra is very interesting because that's the only sign that is neither human or an animal. It's actually an object. It's a scale. It's the justice of scale. And we have to measure something here, how well the harvest went, for example. So there is something we're going to have to look at, whether this relationship is valuable for me, or, you know what, in relationship back in the days had a really practical side to it, because someone kept you hot during cold nights. It's an air sign, so that is also talking to us about intellect and the connections and on something that is on your mind. This is telling us to develop on our judgments, becoming a contender to a better level, to have the fine things in life. But often what happens is that you might be abandoning your own judgment and intuition as you allow others to convince you. Now, this is where the Aries strong emphasis is going to be coming up in the picture, where it tells you the Sun in Aries being on Salacia and Hera that you don't need to follow the herd all the time. You're going to have to weigh things out here. So, of course, Libra is the third quadrant of the signs, and that's the world. It is not necessarily about us anymore. We have to integrate others into our life as well. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be giving up on who I am. Remember, Libra is ruled by Venus, and I'm going to talk about that more in depth as well, because Venus, the previous day, actually makes a sextile to Jupiter. But the archetype of Libra would be, the forever balance. We want harmony, peace, the truth, and then we've got the judge, who is going to be judgmental, or who is going to be deciding who is right and wrong. So who is deciding in your life what's right for you and what's wrong for you? And the highest manifestation is actually the artist. The lower manifestation would be the vanity, where we are too focused on the world and what they think of us, following fashions and walking in front of the mirror and checking ourselves out. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with that. But when we do that because we feel getting judged by others, then of course it's going to become an issue, because you're going to go through some codependency. On a spiritual level, this is the artist who wants to create something and show their art to the world, wanting to help to create balance with their art. So Libra represents the diplomat as well. And then we've got the higher octave, and that artist mediates through arts, somehow bringing people together and saying that we together created something, and me is not going to be important anymore. But again, the sun and Mercury also in the sign of Aries, and the North Node and Chiron and so forth, wants you to go through this type of healing. Now, when we look at Libra's healing curve, because the previous sign was Virgo, right? So in Virgo, we learned how to create balance in chaos, how to organize things, right? Mercury there collected all the intellectual resources and compartmentalized there. Now, Libra, what it teaches you is how to create harmony with the information you have gained, to make peace about something that you figured out about yourself, for example. The other air sign is Gemini, right? With Gemini, it doesn't matter who I'm making connection with, but with Libra, the goal is to find connections that serve both of us. Libra wants to find solution that does not create imbalance in the world. Libra is the mirror. It's kind of like the couple dancing. You repeat each other's moves, and that's really important there. And by the way, the symbol of that scale, it originates from Egypt, the balance of the sun and the moon. And it's pretty much about bringing them together, fixing the indifference, finding the common goals for both of them. And the meeting point between the sun and the moon is pretty much of a feather time, right? So it's just a handshake and then they swap places. And that's exactly what Libra represents as well. It's like, it depends where you put the feather, on which end of that scale, and it can go out of balance. And when you try to create that harmony so badly, that's also a problem, because it means that you don't go with the flow. I mean, I can talk about Libra definitely for ages. I'm not going to talk about the mythological part of it, because there are quite a lot, and probably this would be maybe too boring for you. But this could indicate that you're going to have to make a decision, for example, about something. You might be breaking up, for example, in your relationship. You might feel like that you have been smiling a lot at someone, and maybe they are talking behind your back. Maybe you're going to have to look at how much money you spend on luxurious items. Maybe you're going to have to look at your business connections. Maybe you're going to have to practice to have better manners. Also, Libra represents legal matters as well. So you might end up having a legal matter with someone, especially if it's connected to your 7th or 9th house, for example. But the highest manifestation is to bring this beauty and harmony at a larger scale into your life. Maybe cutting out some of the snobs out of your life. Maybe trying to be around people who are trustworthy, refined. Maybe you're going to have to practice a little bit better negotiation skills. Maybe you're going to have to plan things out as well. The planning is really important with Libra as well, because the exalted ruler is Saturn. It might be that you're going to have a dispute that needs a little bit of a mediating. You might want to end up, for example, going to a therapy, a couple therapy. But this might be coming with loads of indecisiveness. Maybe you feel that your partner is a little bit narcissistic or annoyed all type, or maybe jealous, or you think that your partner is vain, or are you addicted to relationship, for example? Because all these can lead to quarrels. By the way, when it comes to Libra, they want to get the attention, and they will do whatever it takes to get it. They want to shine in someone else's eyes. That's what makes them happy. When they are not in the right state of mind, they are really quarrelsome as well. But typically, they are not necessarily good at breaking up. They're going to make their partners subconsciously to make up with that. You know, for example, this is a day when you shouldn't be using bad words. Try to speak a little bit more in an intellectual way as well. That could be very, important, for example. Also, I would say that during this lunar eclipse period, you might want to be a little bit more well-balanced with your expenditure. Libra is good at actually looking for bargains and deals, but you can be indecisive when spending money. Too much information and they cannot make up their mind. So edit it down a little bit, how much information you've got right in front of you. It might be about that, you just do a bit of a window shopping and something is pleasing your eyes, and you're going to spend a little bit more money. You're going to have to be careful with that, because Venus is actually in sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter is over emphasizing those Venusian habits, basically. Also, it could lead to a legal argument over money with someone as well, or you might end up buying something that is not needed for you. Or even it could indicate that you think that there is this perfect image somewhere, and there is a craving going on for that. And this lunar eclipse might be telling you that that perfect picture is actually not existent. You might notice that you want to be a little bit more around people, but are the people actually somehow draining you out? That could be a topic you're going to have to think about. Now, we have gone through on Libra what it might indicate, but I think one of the message here is that we do need to say, we do need to be able to say no. You need to be looking at your own partnerships. How much can you compromise? Bring back things into harmony and balance. Make conversations. Remember that the ruler is Venus, and it's actually making a sextile to Jupiter. But previously, Venus just made a connection to Saturn, which I think it was really beneficial. Because Saturn and Venus wanted us to see our relationships, for example, clearer. And then Jupiter, maybe you guys went through some trouble with that Venus and Saturn conjunction, and some hurdles, some obstacles. And then if it went well, then you had the opportunity to kind of compartmentalize something internally. And now Jupiter is actually giving the opportunity to go ahead. If there was issues in the relationship, but it wasn't dealt with, then Jupiter is going to magnify the problem further. So with the Venus Saturn, we had to have clarity about what we want from partnership, what we want from our partner, what we want from ourselves. simple goals. It wanted you not to spend a moment on people that are not deserving at all. This was about cutting them out somehow. And if it didn't happen, then I feel like Jupiter is going to be a little bit more on the problematic side because it's going to bring them into your life, unfortunately. Now, one of the things that you see here is, for example, that the sun is quite tightly but conjuncting Hera, which is an asteroid. Now, I have spoken about Hera before. This was about a unfaithful wife type of archetype, pretty much. By the way, if you want to be looking at where Hera is in your chart, then its astrological number is 103. So she is something to do with family lineage. This is something to do with the inherited wounds from partnership, or the unconscious patterns, what we all have somehow, we inherited from our parents. So if you have got these karmic problems in relationships, then this, you know, this is going to be a topic for you. And this could also talk to you about somehow getting all your limitations around who you are and who your partner is, kind of like breaking away from those completely. But it might be an indication that you are looking for deep connections, some type of soulful relationships with others. You are yearning to be appreciated, to be said that you were beautiful. But all those are just words. Aries says that the acting, how they act, is more important than what they say. And then it tells you that there is that need to find that hidden wisdom that is going to encourage you to be stronger than you are. So Hera can represent somehow personal transformation and growth, but this is telling you that there is some trauma to go through. And you know what? I feel like because Aries and Mercury are in conjunction as well, which has got its dangerous side. And the dangerous side is that we're going to just start spreading gossips, for example, or we're going to be screaming out loud, or we are planning out a trick or revenge on others. But the good side is that it might give you the courage to talk up about your problems so that you can start that personal transformation. The other thing is that the sun is quite close to Salacia. I'm not too sure if I have spoken about Salacia before, but definitely I was teaching that in the 30 most important asteroid course. Its astrological number is 120347, and she is a sea nymph. She's a little bit similar to Neptune, and she is called as the goddess of salty water. She has got a 272-year orbit, and it represents purity, virginity. But unfortunately, Neptune kind of seduced her. Neptune sent a dolphin to speak to her to become his wife, and then she kept refusing, and then she had to be tricked into it, and then it happened. So she is about fertility, the manifestation of dreams. It shows in our natal chart where we can find success, our creative potentials. This is making something more intuitive as well. It has a kind of like an intuitive voice that is telling you how to get out of chaos. I mean, it represents that in the world, unfortunately, there is going to be some type of chaos. And it looks to me that many people are going to be departing, or when it comes to countries, unfortunately, they might start some type of negotiations, but it's not going to go too well because there is some strong individuality going on and no one is willing to compromise. But on a personal level, you know, you can actually fix this if you want. This could talk to you about, I mean, Salacia rules such things as yoga as well, but represents emotional stability as well. So, that's the message there, right? Where you're going to have to find the harmony within yourself if you want your relationship to be working out in the greatest way. Then also, as I mentioned, Mercury conjunct Aries, the asteroid. And if you remember the story about Aries who caused chaos and with a wedding party, she just threw in that golden apple for them to decide who is the fairest. And of course, they were not able to decide who were the fairest. And then they had to do a bit of cheating. Mercury represents cheats. So I feel like it's going to happen. Mercury in the sign of Aries has got the tendency to want to win at all costs. And I feel like there is winning here, but it's going to be happening with cheating. So imagine that, I don't know if there is any sport event coming up in the near future, but this could indicate that probably there is going to be some headlines that, oh, this person took some drugs, for example, with Aries, or some boosters, or all these type of things. I would imagine that something is going to be coming out with that. And the other thing that I actually wanted to mention to you, that Moon is actually on an asteroid called Shiva. Now, I do not think that I've ever spoken about Shiva before. I cannot remember, but its astrological number is 1170, and it's a Hindu goddess. It's also called as the Great Destroyer. And if I'm not mistaken, its name is Auspicious. And he is one of the three trinity of gods embodying the universal forces of creation, preservation, and destruction. So this is telling us that if we are not embracing that emotional need to find balance, then we start destroying our relationships with ourselves as well as with others. I mean, it could represent a lot more, but I think the message is this from that point of view. Interesting that also Shiva is actually looked at as a medical asteroid as well. I remember reading a case study or some research around that. And someone said that it would represent the sensory processing issues regarding the experience and the impact of sound on the body. So let me know, do you have a prominent Shiva maybe on your sun or moon or ascendant? And do you have any hearing problems, for example, or sound? But also it would represent that someone who is doing sound healing, for example, kind of like doing that gonging type of things and all those type of things. So I would love to hear just a little bit from a research point of view, whether it is in your life. And then the other thing that Shiva can represent is kind of like allergy or symptoms of allergy. Something that is a little bit periodic or seasonal and then kind of disappears. So it would be the asteroids of allergy. I'm also curious to see if you had any experiences with that too. But speaking about allergy, who are you allergic to in your life? Because you're gonna have to cut that out. So guys, this is my interpretation on the upcoming lunar eclipse. If you want to know how it plays out for each of the 12 signs, I really recommend going ahead, signing up for my YouTube membership program. You might want to be listening to your sun, moon, and the ascendant sign as well, because you might be getting some really valuable information. Thank you, everyone, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.